Now, have you ever wondered how the mobile phone in your hand, the laptop on your desk like the one I'm using right now, the medication you take, or even the car you drive made their way to Ghana? I can tell you, almost everything came by sea. The maritime industry is a multi-billion-dollar powerhouse with countless subsectors broadly described as the blue economy. Now, in fact, the blue economy encompasses the sustainable use of ocean and coastal resources to drive economic growth, create jobs, and improve livelihoods whilst preserving the health of marine ecosystem. In Ghana, the Ghana Maritime Authority, established under the Ghana Maritime Authority Act 2202 at 630, is the principal agency responsible for regulation, monitoring, coordinating activities in the marine sector. Now, this afternoon, we have in the studio the Acting Director General of the Ghana Maritime Authority, Dr. Kamel Dean Ali, and he joins me. We are privileged to have you, Dr. Ali. Good afternoon. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
30 days of fasting finally is over, renewed for the tax ahead?
Yes, renewed for the tax ahead, and I say Eid Mubarak to every Ghanaian.
Right.
Because we are in a multicultural and a multi-religious society, but more so to my own region, in Upper West region, and then my constituency, West Central. Right,
right. Before you came in, I was having a discussion with Malik about the fact that in the 2020, in the last elections, I spent 2 nights at your new office at around the Parliament House.
Yes, please.
Yeah, because the Electoral Commission, I think the Electoral Commission spoke to the authority to allow the use of the facility for some of the people, especially the media week. So 2 nights I spent it there.
Okay.
So I was asking, when are you guys moving into this beautiful, structure? When is that happening? I see you still using the old office.
Yes. We are expected to move into it in the next couple of months. It's a building that has been long over delayed. This project ought to have completed in 2022.
Right.
What it means is that it is 3 years delayed. Hopefully, since we came into office, we have, and through the leadership of my minister, because I'm here to have a board,
okay.
We've been working assiduously with the contractors. There were quite a number of knotty issues to be addressed. But
around the building?
Around the building and the construction. But you also take note that one of the things His Excellency President Mahama has promised is the continuity of existing projects.
Right.
So we ought to move around the clock with management. And finally, we had those issues resolved. And then we have got a committed program for the building to be completed soon. So plus or minus, we hope that it wouldn't take more than 3 months for us to move into the building. So thanks to the leadership of my minister and my management that I've worked with in resolving those issues and getting the contractor on track for us to complete the building.
All right. So if you are watching and you are wondering what this maritime business is all about, perhaps you can help break it down for us.
Okay, I would help break it down, but let me say a couple of things. One is to thank His Excellency President Mahama for appointing me to this position, which is humbling. I have the opportunity to work with my minister, that's the Honorable Joseph Nikpe, who is the Minister for Transport.
Right.
And a board that is yet to be constituted to achieve the vision of His Excellency in this particular area. I'm sure there are quite a number of people that could be appointed to the position looking at various yardsticks, but he found it very appropriate to entrust me with that responsibility, so that is humbling. And the second thing is that before I come to that, and I'm sure we'll be having a longer conversation,
right.
is to also say that, as I indicated, that we are yet to have a board. So I'll be speaking to issues that I'm speaking within my own purview now, but some of which will be fine-tuned when we have a board in place. Luckily, I have delayed also in speaking with the media because I wanted to know what are the priorities of my minister. So over the last couple of weeks, you would have realized that the Honorable Nikpe has been engaging with a lot of stakeholders.
Yes.
And in doing so, he has laid clearly some of the priorities that he will embark on in achieving the vision of the president. So these are the caveats that I start with. And you asked, what is this all about? You did actually in your introduction, and I was very much happy with how you went about it, exhaustively covering what the maritime domain is and what the blue economy is. We can speak to it extensively, But talking about it in the context of the country, we are having a maritime space that is crucial for our economy.
Right.
Crucial for our telecommunication sector, crucial to what we eat, crucial to what we export, crucial to the revenue that we generate in the country. So in other words, the maritime corridor, which I work in, together with some colleagues like the Ghana Ports and Harbour Authority and the Ghana Navy, is the most, or one of the most important lifelines to our economy and our country.
Clearly.
And that is where our stewardship is.
I mean, before you came in, you know, Reverend Ntimfojor, the ranking on the Defense and Interior Committee, raised concerns about the statement that came from the Ghana Navy regarding some pirate activity that resulted in the kidnapping of the captain of a vessel, a Chinese national. How related are you to this kind of activity?
Oh, we are very core, and that statement did not come out of the Navy without consultation. It is more or less, although it was issued by the Ghana Armed Forces and issued by my senior colleague in the Armed Forces, you know, I also have the opportunity of serving in the military for 20 years.
Absolutely.
Brigadier General Agriquashi. It is something that represented a consensus of the stakeholders that have been involved in responding to the piracy incident. And it was very exhaustive for the period for which it was meant to be. It sent out clear information on the piracy incident and what critical stakeholders in the line of duty were doing in respect of that piracy attack. Clearly, it has taken a number of days now, and more information is available to us. This incident involved Mezzin 1, which is one of the fishing vessels under the flag of Ghana, off our coast. It was attacked in this most vulnerable position. And then three crew members were abducted. Reading through the news, since the one that has been issued by the Ghana Armed Forces, you will note that even the Chinese ministry and China as a country is confirming that the abducted citizens are
Chinese.
safe, that they are safe now. So that is at best what we can say now.
They are safe but not released.
Exactly, that their life is not in danger as we speak, not in danger as being killed or being injured, but quite a lot of discussion is going on between the major stakeholders in respect of that particular operation.
We don't know whether the kidnappers are asking for ransom.
Those are many matters that are and other issues that major stakeholders are handling now, and then we will leave them at that. And as and when there are developments that the public need to know, we would incrementally mention that. But it is sufficient to know that all the stakeholders, our national intelligence apparatus, the Ghana Maritime Authority, the Ghana Navy, in collaboration with neighboring countries, are working on this particular issue. Let's note that this is not an isolated issue to Ghana. Only 2 days before the Ghana incident, one happened in Equatorial Guinea, where Equatorial Guinea, Sao Tome and Principe, that didn't involve a commercial vessel. It even involved a normal, sorry, it didn't involve a fishing vessel. It involved a normal vessel. Yes, some abductions took place. Incidents such as this do happen in the maritime space. We had a crescendo of it at the highest level in 2019-2020. But since then, there has been quite a lot of effort at national and regional level, including global level, that has decreased the number of incidents, although we have had some incidents still in the last 2-3 years.
So, if somebody is listening, I mean, when we talk about piracy, the person's, I mean, the thinking is that this is way beyond Ghana. It is not something that, as a Ghanaian, I should be worried about. I should be thinking about Somalia or the activity that the U.S. military is undertaking somewhere in the Middle East to deal with this particular matter. So when we hear these things, should I be worried that this has come home to me, or we have authorities firmly in control of the situation?
Oh, both are right. First is that we need to be worried because crime is crime, and wherever crime is happening, and especially if it is happening in our maritime domain, we need to be worried. Technically, there's a difference between piracy and armed robbery at sea, but we don't need to get into all those nuances now. For now, let's just speak to the fact that piracy will involve the hijacking of a vessel by itself or crew members at sea for certain purposes. So we need to all be worried when that happens. But Elton, remember that there are quite a number of robberies that take place on land daily.
Absolutely.
Yes, but we are concerned about them. So as much as we are concerned about what we see in piracy, but we should understand that these criminal elements do hit from time to time. But what we do as agencies in this particular line of duty is to be able to respond when it happens and to put in place remedial measures to prevent future ones from happening.
But you will say that Ghana's territorial waters are safe?
Oh yes, certainly, generally very safe. Otherwise, we would have had high level of criminal activities happening. We would have had substantial decrease in port calls. We would have had unique concerns every day to tackle. So although we have this incident that has happened, which is a source of concern, and we are studying that, we are looking at that to see how we address future incidents. But we are very, very safe generally as a country. So
as you draw down the authority you inherited, what were you told, or what have you uncovered?
Oh, I have inherited an authority. Here means the Ghana Maritime Authority, yes, that I describe as being built over a period of years. Luckily, I am the 4th DG of the Ghana Maritime Authority, as much as His Excellency is the 4th John of the Republic of Ghana. Yeah, so being the 4th DG of the authority, what it means, DG Azuma, DG Kwame Owusu, DG Alonzi, who has just left and have inherited, yeah. So I've taken over an authority that has incrementally been built. Yes, there are many challenges to address, but I'm very optimistic that working with the leadership that is in front of me, we are able to address some of those challenges and take the authority to a higher and more productive level. And
our laws on our maritime laws and regulations, are they that effective in responding to the current needs?
We have quite a lot of maritime legislations in place. The Maritime Authority Act itself, the Shipping Act, a number of regulations that we have. So we do have some level of adequate legislation, but there are other areas that we are plugging. There has been on stream, for example, a Piracy and Maritime Offences Act that has been on the drawing board for a while.
What would that do exactly?
What it will do is to provide much more stricter response to piracy in the form of clarifying, criminalization, adjudication, punishment, and the rest. So that is what it
currently we don't have that.
Currently,
or they are not adequate.
Exactly, they are not adequate. We have in our Criminal Offences Act in Ghana legislations that are, or provisions that are a bit old and do not respond to the kind of modern day piracy that we are thinking about, which is transnational, and then you need to address this in a multifaceted way. So that is going to come, and then there are a few other critical legislations. For example, even in the area of the fishing that we have just mentioned, there is what we call the implementation instrument of the Cape Town Agreement. That is also on stream. My minister is picking this as some of the key things to submit to cabinet so that action can be taken quickly, so that we can be good in those areas. But we need to provide other legislations in order to have a comprehensive governance of our maritime space and other instruments and policy frameworks. And all these are in the offing, including the implementation of the National Integrated Maritime Strategy, which has also been validated, affirmed by the former president, but the implementation never started. You know, so these are some of the milestones that we'll be picking and be working on.
So these reforms are ones that you are pushing for them to come true?
Yes. Yes, we are pushing for them to come true, but they will also require a matching of the necessary expertise, the necessary leadership, and the necessary resources in order to transform the maritime sector.
Right. So the punishment regime that you spoke early on, that means that there will be new laws that Parliament may have to consider. Okay. Is that a process?
Okay, what I mentioned, for example, if you go to our Criminal Offences Act and you look at provisions around 193, 194, it provides for piracy, but it only provided for piracy in a limited way. You have for example, let's take this particular incident that has happened. There will be networks that are involved in this particular incident, and you can't just target the 4 pirates that boarded the ship. You need to target the network that surrounds that particular offense. So this particular legislation that we are talking of, when passed into law, will provide a more comprehensive framework for punishing all those that are in the line of the piracy.
So in the interim, what are we doing to deal with the inadequacy of that law?
Oh, the 193 and 194, in a way, are still good, but they are insufficient. Elton, you remember that some years ago we had the MT Mariam case, where Ghana Navy, in one of the most highly skilled way, was able to interdict a vessel at sea. And I say this with all the pride of the officers and the crew that did that particular operation, was one of the unique operations ever conducted globally, where the Ghana Navy was able to board a ship and arrest pirates on board the ship. This is very unique in the MT Mariam case. But somehow, we were not able to comprehensively prosecute the MT Mariam pirates because this was somewhere in 2015.
Right.
This was because our legislation wasn't as comprehensive as to deal with elements such as the MT Mariam pirates.
Right.
They had, for example, hijacked that vessel, not in our waters,
but outside
but in
of
Nigerian waters, and brought it into our waters. So there are quite a lot of juridical complications relating to that, which our law couldn't particularly take care of. So finally, we had to extradite them to Nigeria for trial. So all this lacuna and others are now being taken care of in the new legislation that we are looking at.
Is that the Maritime Offences Bill that you are proposing?
Yes, that's the Maritime Offences Bill.
And so in terms of the punishment, is there a proposal in this bill that spells out if you are caught, this is the punishment that will be meted out to you? You also mentioned that sometimes it's not just about those that you arrest on the shipping, but you also need to extend to cover the networks. The network may be operating outside the shores of Ghana.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so there are provisions when you talk about that, but remember that it is still a bill. As a matter of fact, it is technically not even a bill until it is presented to Parliament
and passed.
It is not a bill. So I wouldn't be able to speak about it as if it is something that is operational, because Parliament has the mandate to decide whether what has been presented to them, either in form of the provisions or the punishment, they will tweak it in many ways. But let's be straight that this didn't come out of nothing. I had the opportunity of taking part in this work as a consultant far before I came into this office. And a lot of stakeholders were consulted into this, including the highest level for our judiciary. For example, I do remember that one of the final workshops that we held consisted of Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, and High Court judges, up to about 20 to 25 of them that comprehensively reviewed this. So it is something that I believe that when it is finally passed, when a cabinet finally presented to Parliament, that it will meet a good expectation of Parliament, and Parliament within their mandate will see how they will finalize.
Meaning a lot of work needs to be done.
Yes, a lot of work has been done by the major stakeholders like Ghana Maritime Authority, the Minister of Transport, the Attorney General Office in working on this. Cabinet just have to give the policy approval and for the ministry to lay it before Parliament, and Parliament will take it up. And I think that when Parliament has that opportunity, they will still consult a number of stakeholders. By looking at what I know it is, Parliament will have a relatively easier work to handle when it comes to that.
It looks like interest in this conversation is getting bigger, especially on our social media, because I'm getting a lot of questions here. Somebody's asking, says, we hear shipping lines are milking the Ghanaian shippers, and currently cases are before the court against some shipping lines. What do you make of the compliance of maritime laws by shipping lines in the country? I don't know whether...
No, this is a whole different conversation altogether. Within more of my minister's remit, I also play a role in it, but also my other counterpart, that is the Ghana Shippers Authority. So I will leave it at that. And if you look at it in the media a couple of weeks ago, the minister has been speaking to that issue, and the minister has been leading a discussion and building a consensus around that issue.
Because the person followed up with this question, so the shipping lines are charging some unapproved fees, such as unauthorized demurrage, etc. This also falls with the Ghana Shipping Authority?
No, I go back to that. A demurrage is quite a legal thing, and that has to do with the fact that when you are unable to clear goods within a certain period, yes, but I know that there are technical issues regarding that. and with my counterpart on the other side, Professor Jampo, ours, Ghana Maritime Authority, and under the leadership of our ministry, and my other counterpart, that is the Director General Ports and Harbour Authority, General Tanya, that issue are being discussed, and then finding a better solution to it.
Doc, let's stay a little longer on the ports.
Yes.
And I'm asking whether that, in terms of the key infrastructure and the work that you do, are there gaps that you think that if well addressed will maximize the best from our ports?
No, did you say the port?
Yes.
Or the port, that is within the domain of General Tanya.
You don't have any relationship with them?
We do regulate the ships as they are in the port. As they are in the port, we do regulate. And we do regulate activities in the port. But the custodian of the port and the running of the port and port activities is within the remit of Brigadier General Tanya. And I would not be speaking on that because I'm sure when you have him, he'll be able to lay his vision on that and how that again tallies with our minister's vision and the president's vision in that area.
Now let's talk about revenue, because I know that the authority, I mean, you survive on the revenue that you generate.
Yes.
What are the key sources in terms of revenue generation for the Maritime Authority?
Oh, I would say generally is the shipping industry on the maritime industry. As we provide services in that area, we also generate revenue for the administrative running of the authority. We also provide services beyond this, limited services to the oil and gas industry. Remember that we do a lot of critical jobs. We just don't focus on shipping, but we are also playing a major role in the safety and security of our offshore infrastructure, our submarine cables, our pipelines, and a number of things. So through these areas, at times, we get some administrative financial support, as much as I said, the shipping industry tends to be the bigger and the larger one. So if you are talking about direct revenue to us, that is what it means. But remember
but are you getting the maximum out of it?
The maximum out of it is also a function of how much maritime activity we are able to create. There was a period, because of the COVID and many factors, when we have substantial decline in ship calls to the ports, and that certainly affected. For example, also, the more oil and gas activities that we have, that will have a relative influence on our economy generally, but also on some of the administrative influence of the Ghana Navy. The Ghana Maritime Authority. So enough generally, yes, but we have challenges in also raising to meet the desired budget that we have.
And what are some of the challenges?
We have, for example, a high budget in the area of compensation for workers.
Salaries.
Salaries is one of the huge areas.
Meaning your workforce is large.
Our workforce is large, unfortunately. To put it this way, my organization that I lead has moved from a staff complement that is almost 400% in the last couple of years.
400%?
Yes. So we have a staff complement, for example, of less than 110 in 2017. And I inherited something that is nearing 600 staff members. From
2017 to 2025?
Exactly.
From 107?
About 110.
110 to 600?
So about getting to 600. So that is a very high level compensation budget for the Ghana Maritime Authority to meet. It is an overemployment, and I'm sure this has been characterized by many other agencies in the country. That doesn't really match up with the financial growth of the authority, nor does it even match up with the expertise that is required to run the affairs of the authority. But these and other matters are being looked at to see how the staff complement can be looked into and brought to reasonable level. Otherwise, what it means is that you have a high staff budget that is hanging on the authority's neck. You are also having a situation where you are unable to employ others in future, but more importantly, you have a situation where expertise will not match productivity and work environment. So
the word you use here is that overly employed.
Yes.
Meaning you have people who have been employed and may not have nothing to do. Is that what it means?
To some extent, we do have a good numbers of that because there haven't been a match up with the employment and defining roles for them, nor do we even need all those hands within the authority.
So the possibility of layouts is high?
Yeah, sure, which is part of His Excellency's resetting vision. Because we need to give life to almost every institution, including the Ghana Maritime Authority. So where there are matters that are more or less obstructing us from the growth and from delivering the services that we are supposed to deliver to Ghana, imagine also that when you have an organization, you just don't need to create jobs, but you need to let the organization be more functional.
Right.
I'm sure if we had 100 people in this room with you, you wouldn't be able to do the work that you are supposed to do. So numbers alone is never positive. It can be a challenge. But more importantly, you need to build the skills to accompany those numbers. And there is no need having somebody employed and 4 or 5 years' time in the person's employment life, the person cannot show that there is growth in the person's skill. The person cannot show how much the person is delivering to the economy. These challenges are things that they can undermine the sustainability of an organization.
And from your analysis, the conclusion perhaps is that these people were employed without taking into consideration the fact that there wasn't enough available space for them to fill.
Yes, yes. Some of those analyses were not done well, but luckily for us, as I said, our minister is looking into this under the leadership of the Chief of Staff as well, that is tasked with ensuring these organizations are able to survive well, not to be bogged down by overemployed people. More formal methods are being used to look into this and to see how we reset the system in such a way that it can be more productive.
So layoff is possible?
Those are policy issues that, yes, it's possible. If the word is possible, yes, it's possible.
The revenue, beyond generating revenue for the authority, can the Ghana Maritime Authority be a major revenue driver for the nation? Oh,
we do. We are already doing. Remember that a large number of the revenue for this country and our GDP is from ports. So our ministry, that's the Ministry of Transport, creates much of the wealth for this country, either through the work that we do, my colleagues on the Navy side, my colleagues on the shipper side, my colleagues on the Ports and Harbour Authority side, and the GRA we do. So we are already a major revenue driver for the country. And from what we also do, we contribute to employment and economic drive.
Right.
We supervise and regulate all the agencies that need to deliver to our economy, whether oil and gas, shipping, and the rest. So we are no doubt a major driver of our economy.
So if that potential is there, then obviously you need people.
Yes.
To help achieve that.
Yes.
And so expansion become key.
Yes. Expansion can always be key, but you know there is always you need to match growth with employment and graduate it in such a way that it achieves a certain results. And of course, it is always also the case that there is endless expansion. At the end of the day, you need a certain skill set to run a certain industry. So as much as, for example, Joy FM can expand, but we cannot over a night have a certain level of employees. What it will mean is that you will not even have the opportunity to expand again because you are going to suffocate under that.
All right, my final question on this matter of the revenue, somebody's asking that. I mean, if you are a major revenue driver for the country, in what ways and how do you even make it even better?
Oh, we have been mentioning that already. We are a major revenue driver from the country because if we look at shipping, shipping forms a major backbone of our economy. The second, when I say a major backbone, everything that comes in and comes out is shipping, and right. You already covered
of
that.
Course.
You know, we mentioned the issue of port revenue. GRA creates a huge amount of money from the imports and exports of this country. So we are a major revenue driver. We anchor the activities of the teleco. If you go to the Ghana Maritime Authority now, you go and see our situational room, and you will see very dedicated people that are sitting there. They are watching over the telecom lines that we have in this country, the fiber optic cables, and they are watching over it 24 hours the whole year.
Right.
And what they are doing is making sure that these are not disrupted. You remember what happened last year and the substantial disruption that we had in the country last year, February. So this was a disruption of our submarine cables. So you go there and you have the West African gas pipeline, the oil and gas industry. We are playing a critical role in safeguarding all this. So we just don't regulate as an authority, but we work and ensure that there is direct safety outcomes of what we do. And that feeds directly into our economy and the growth of our economy. And we do this, of course, with other important stakeholders.
And the issue of the blue economy and how we can maximize that. Are you taking the lead role?
Yes, we are playing a major role, and we do this in collaboration with other agencies. If you watch the news, for example, you realize that under the leadership of our minister and the Minister of Tourism, for example, paid a courtesy call on boarding of a cruise ship that was in Ghana's port.
The Takoradi port.
Yeah, Takoradi port.
Yes.
No, Accra port, actually, okay. Tema port, actually. So this is one of the changes that you are seeing. So it's an untapped area when it comes to cruise ships, for example, that there has been an increasing number of cruise ships, but we haven't put in place the energy and the policy to drive that. And the minister and his other minister, co-minister of tourism are already looking into that area. We need to move beyond just regulating as an authority to leading and telling people. So one of the things that we are going to do in the coming days and when our board is in place and working with the minister is what we call the Blue Economy Assurance Project.
Right.
This is to be forward working to lead in such a way that people are able to see what are the opportunities and to have assurance in their ability to tap into the blue economy. One other area is seafaring.
Right.
A matter also that the minister has already taken very strongly, and we are pursuing that. Ghana is naturally a maritime industry, country. As a matter of fact, in the whole of Africa, we don't compete with anybody for that destiny. If anybody comes closer to us, it's Morocco, and perhaps far from behind is Kenya. We don't compete with that destiny. What has happened is that we haven't captured it the way it is supposed to.
Right.
We know that under our first president, President Nkrumah, that particular destiny was being realized, but it was truncated in many ways. And I'm sure as part of the resetting agenda and under the leadership of the minister, you see us taking key steps to build upon whatever existed, but in a greater way with higher momentum in order to achieve the greatest benefits in the blue economy, including seafaring. We need to create jobs for our youth. It is not an easy thing.
Absolutely, I was coming to that.
We can have a whole conversation over that. There are many complicated issues to tackle.
Like what?
But the good thing is that you are having the minister who is already spearheading that discussion because it is part of the greatest vision of the president that our youth must be employed. If we say of what? For example, we are having cadets that are coming out of the Regional Maritime University. They are being trained as cadets with the what? Academic knowledge.
Right.
And limited practical knowledge. They need sea time. And the sea time will take about 1 year. And that sea time is what will prepare them for the industry. As a country, we don't have a training ship. As a country, we have limited flags. And because we have limited flags, we don't have opportunity to put our cadets on board our flags in order to have that sea time. You just know, Elton, how difficult it is for somebody to intern even on land. On land, when the person is interning, the person is only spending a couple of hours with the company and going back home.
Right. Imagine
somebody who is to spend 1 year interning on a ship, 24 hours, sleeping, being fed, insurance, medical, security, safety. So it is a very convoluted set of issues. And to get a shipping line to agree to do that, you need to take a lot of steps.
A lot of steps.
And this is one of the areas that we are moving in order to ensure that we have greater dialogue with the major shipping companies, including MEX, including others, to open the way for our cadets. Then we have
before you move on, the limited flags.
Yes.
This is a technical area,
yes, okay.
and we are not following, so if you can break it down for us.
Okay, so what I mean is that ships have nationality, and their nationality is their flag. And as a country, we have laws. The laws are such that if you are flying our flag, then we are entitled to have a certain number of crew complement. And we could
on the ship.
On the ship. And we could use that to also say that you should have two of our cadets on board your ship for the period. But because we don't have many ships flying our flag, we don't have this ability to create more definite employment based on our flag.
And also limiting their hands-on experience.
Exactly. So that is a product then. Okay. So what we are now trying to do is that how do we engage with other countries to make sure that we have bilateral relationships that will allow our cadets to train on board them. The other level is that how do we reinvigorate our manning industry, our recruitment industry, so that they can be able to recruit? Because some of the best captains historically in the world are Ghanaians.
Oh, that's nice.
You should know that a Ghanaian was the first person, black, to have ever sailed a ship across the Atlantic. We have had very, very formidable Ghanaian women who have captained ships and they stand tall. So this is an area, go along the coast and you see the history from all along from Winneba through to Takoradi. You see a rich history of people who have left legacy in this area. So that is something that we need to build on. We have that particular historical reputation, but we just need to tweak a number of things to make sure that we can expand the crewing industry as well and create more jobs for our youth.
But is there appetite for businessmen to play a role in this blue economy? That is, if government is able to lay out the infrastructure to encourage them to come, is the appetite there?
There is appetite, and there are people who are already working in the area, and they need more support from government in terms of policy and leadership support. And I'm sure that that is what will be offered. Of course, I'm not saying that it has never been there, but we need to build upon that. And as I describe myself as being the fourth leg of the Ghana Maritime Authority, we have that opportunity to do more in that particular area. So there is appetite, and we just need to make sure that we strengthen it and grow it in a way that we can have much more this. I must admit that some of the areas you require more investment. For example, if we take our oil and gas industry, for example, local Ghanaians are not able to take advantage of it.
Right.
We are not able to take advantage of it. The local content laws and the cabotage law. Cabotage means, you see, cabotage is a regime that governs the right of a country to make the best out of trade or activities between its coast. For example, you are lifting clinker or bauxite from Tema, from Takoradi to Tema. For example, you are linking an activity between Tema or Takoradi and the offshore oil and gas platforms. These activities are happening within our maritime space. And ideally, we as a country should be able to take advantage of cabotage. Cabotage means trade beyond your port, in order to get a lot of economies of scale. Remember, Elton, there is no economy that is bigger in the world than shipping.
Absolutely.
Simple put, shipping is the biggest economy.
Right.
So what has happened is that in this particular area, although we have the laws, we haven't had Ghanaians being able to invest in order to have ships to be able to take advantage of the economic scale in that area, just one or two. So it is an area that I'm sure with the leadership of the President and His Excellency, they will also be looking at how they build Ghanaian business in that area. Acquiring a vessel is not an easy thing. It requires a lot of things to handle. But I'm sure that these are some of the areas that we'll be looking at.
And then the last one, the blue economy, I don't know whether there's plan in motion to acquire, for example, a training ship for some of our students coming out from the Maritime University, for example.
Yes, a training ship has been on the drawing line. And I do know that at some point that discussion was drawing board. And I'm sure that that discussion was going at some point with the Koreans. It hasn't really resulted, it hasn't been fruitful. It is a matter that we are yet to pay closer attention to. And when we have a board, we'll be tracking back with the Regional Maritime University, but with the Ministry of Finance in this particular case, to see where things are and how we can pick up that discussion. Because having a training ship is very crucial, ultimately, in giving our cadets those hands-on skills that they need in order to be employable.
But a few issues before we go. Are we getting, what is the level of compliance for international shipping lines as it relates to our maritime laws and regulations?
Or they do comply generally by and large. When you, for example, from our point of view, our regulatory point of view, when you go to the port on every day, you get our officials, you get port officials, we are boarding ships, we are inspecting ships. The Ghana Maritime Authority functions almost like DVLA. You understand?
Right.
Yes. So we have to make sure that every ship is seaworthy. It doesn't matter where the ship comes from. Once it enters our maritime space, and when you go to the port, you have our workers doing this or our staff doing this important work. And the compliance generally is very high. Of course, wherever there is no compliance, we take corrective measures. And when there is a need for penalty, we do impose a penalty. But compliance is generally high, although we need to also do more in order to expand.
And anytime, you know, our leaders, anytime they have to speak about the maritime area, you hear words like illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing. How severe is this concern in our maritime space? Okay,
fisheries is another area altogether. And what you call IUU, illegal and unreported and unregulated, is another domain. You know, we have, again, the president has appointed, you know, a very strong minister in that area to follow upon the work of the former minister. You have Professor Campion, who is the executive director of the Fisheries Commission. This is exactly what their domain is, and I'm sure at some point you may want to bring Professor Campion, for example, to your studio to explain further. He is somebody with great experience in the area. But what this means is a number of things put together and generally describe some of the inappropriate things that might be happening in the maritime space that may, in relation to fisheries, that will border on criminality, and that is what we call illegal unreported. It is a whole area altogether, and particular activities are what you may look at. And this is not only limited to just the trawlers and the shipping, but the vessels is also something that applies to our canoes also. And it's a whole area for discussion.
And as we begin to wrap up, what would you like to be remembered for the period that you serve as Director General of the Ghana Maritime Authority?
Oh, as somebody who helped in achieving the vision that the president is asking us to achieve, as somebody who has worked productively with the board and with the minister in the transformation agenda, as somebody who have left a staff, so a management, that we become more productive collectively, but as somebody who would have left the Ghana Maritime Authority as a much more efficient and to perform at a higher level. Luckily, I have a combination of things that are to my benefit. Apart from a maritime experience, I'm a military officer retired. And I think that is an asset from the state to me. And I bring that to the table of the Ghana Maritime Authority so that we are more efficient, more disciplined, and able to work to achieve those objectives that have been set, that we have been set to, and build upon whatever my predecessors have put in place since the authority started.
So there are better days ahead?
I think so. There are better days ahead. I've seen quite a lot of energy on the part of the minister, Honorable Nipe. I'm hoping to see also a lot of energy on the part of the board. I've already been discussing with my management, and they're seeing quite a lot of transformation, transparent, effective, demand results-oriented leadership.
Right.
And I'm sure that they are prepared to walk that road together so that collectively we can achieve the vision of the president.
All right. Dr. Kamaruddin Ali, thank you so much for coming through. This is just the first media engagement. Hopefully, we'll be reviewing as the days goes by in terms of your policy and vision to make this one of our key drivers of the Ghanaian economy.
Thank you very much for having me, Elton. I'm very grateful.
Right, so you've been listening to Dr. Kamaruddin Ali. He is the Director General of the Ghana Maritime Authority. And of course, I mean, you've heard him. I mean, a former military officer. I've never come across a military officer that speaks so eloquently. and I guess that he will bring on board to effect the transformational change that he envisaged at the Ghana Maritime Authority. We'll take a short